For those of you that might not know, I have a metal spine. Or not really, kind of. I kind of have a metal spine. I have a normal spine, a bone spine, held straight with numerous metal rods, titanium rods and pins. And that is because I have something called scoliosis, and I have it pretty badly. Or I suppose I had it pretty badly, and now I've got the titanium rods holding it straight. I had it pretty badly. And seeing as 2023 is my 10-year anniversary of when I had my spinal fusion to correct scoliosis, I figured it was about time I did a sort of 10 years on spinal fusion update kind of video. On this channel, this is my second channel for anyone just tuning in, I mostly talk about books, and I have covered my scoliosis spinal fusion journey in quite a lot of detail on my main channel, which I will link to down below. I think I'm going to put all the videos in like a playlist that people can just watch all the way through. But I figured I would do my update on this second channel because I'm trying to like make my main channel into just my true crime and history kind of stuff. That's irrelevant. But anyway, this video is here. Rest of them will be linked down below. So a very quick overview of my scoliosis spinal fusion journey. I got diagnosed with scoliosis when I was 16, which is the curvature of the spine. So my spine basically curved from side to side. Every time I film one of these videos, I always say I cannot remember how bad my curve was when I first got diagnosed. I got diagnosed and then went into like complete denial mode for like 2 years until I had to have my surgery. So I really took in very little information in these 2 years. I just knew I had scoliosis, it was bad, and they wanted to cut me open and fix it. By the way, if you can hear all that like drilling in the background, by the way, my neighbours have decided to get new windows put in today, which is very inconvenient for me. But I'm only having a 3-day work week this week, and it is like scheduled to the minute. So if I don't film this now, you ain't getting this video. So I'm sorry if you can hear the drilling. It's like very intermittent, but it is annoying. I'm hoping my mic is like good enough that it's only picking up my voice and not all that shit going on. What was I saying? Most people with scoliosis will only have one curve. I had 2 curves, of course. I'm very special like that. I didn't get diagnosed until it was severe enough that I needed surgery. They wanted to put me in for surgery immediately. I am a stubborn bitch, and I said not until after I've done my A-levels. So I actually had a 2-year gap or 2.5-year gap between when I got diagnosed and when I had my very immediately needed surgery, apparently. My top curve was like somewhere in the realm of 40 degrees. Scoliosis curves are measured in degrees. They say anything over 30 degrees is serious and requires the spinal fusion surgery to fix it. My top curve was 40 degrees when I first got diagnosed, like in that realm, and my bottom curve was around 30 degrees. Whereas when I came to have my surgery 2.5 years later, I think both curves were more in the realm of like 50, 60 degrees, which is pretty bad. Like, if you need surgery when it hits 30 degrees, 60 is double that. So I had pretty severe scoliosis. Why I didn't get diagnosed until I was 16, the UK sort of system doesn't really do scoliosis checks. I know in the USA I get comments about it all the time that scoliosis checks something that is very normal, done in school, done like gym class and stuff. In the UK, scoliosis checks aren't a thing. And it's not very well known. So if I did have the signs of scoliosis, we wouldn't have known what that meant. But I also think because I had 2 curves, it very much evened out how it looked on my body. So as you can imagine, somebody with like one curve in their spine will sort of lean quite severely to one side, and it's quite obvious they've got a spinal deformity. But because I had 2 curves that were fairly even, I just looked pretty normal. My torso was probably shorter than it should have been, but I come from a very short family. I am 5'1". I'm just under 5'1". I'm not quite there, but it's close enough, I can say. And the tallest person in my family is like 5'6", or tallest woman in my family is like 5'6". We're not a tall family. So the fact that I was very, very, very short growing up wasn't particularly odd. It didn't raise any alarm bells. There is one photo of me from when I was like 12, 13, maybe even 14 to be honest, where you can very clearly see that I do look very sort of odd. It doesn't look like a spinal deformity. It basically looks like I've got one hip that goes in like this. I've got like a waist on one side and the other side of me goes straight down. And that was from when I was like 13, like I said. But then I think the curve got worse and then I evened out, and so I didn't actually look like that for very long. I think when you're kind of like growing up, going through puberty, your body's changing, you just don't notice these kinds of things. And especially as I was sort of like going through puberty, I was in my teenage years, like my parents weren't seeing me in a state of undress very often anymore. Like they weren't seeing me in my underwear unless I was in a bikini, which is like we live in the UK. That didn't happen very often. So like nobody noticed it. I didn't notice it. I was looking at myself in the mirror every day. Didn't notice it. Wasn't neglected. It wasn't noticed. We only really noticed it when I was 16 and we were going prom dress shopping, and not a single dress I tried on fitted me properly. Everything just sort of like twisted really weirdly. The zips like down the back of the dresses that should have been going like straight down my spine would just like twist to the side. It was very obvious that I had this waist on one side and then just was flat down on the other side, and nothing fitted me whatsoever. Looking back now at my prom dress, I looked awful because just nothing fitted me. It looked so bad. So I don't really know how my mum, I think my mum must have thought it was more serious than it was, like more serious than she let on to me. I'm riddled with like anxiety and like pretty serious anxiety when it comes to medical stuff. Or like, was I before this point? Did this situation just make me very medically anxious? I don't know. Anyway, my mum didn't really tell me there was something that she was particularly worried about. She took me to the GP. She kind of thought I had one leg longer than the other. Turns out it was scoliosis. Although funnily enough, my GP didn't actually say the word scoliosis when I was in the doctor's surgery. I remember very like vividly this sort of doctor's appointment that I had, and he sort of made me bend over and touch my toes, which is one of the main tests for seeing if somebody has scoliosis. I don't have many photos of me around this time because as soon as I got diagnosed, I just stopped having any photos taken of me. I hated it. I was so self-conscious of it. Which in hindsight, I wish I did have more documented about this time in my life, but I didn't. It was 12 years ago. I was a different person. I just wanted to like forget it was happening. But basically when you bend over and you have scoliosis, one sort of shoulder sits a lot higher than the other. So I can only imagine I did that. The doctor was immediately like, that's scoliosis. Didn't say the word, just referred us straight to John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford. John Radcliffe is not our local hospital. I should have known then this was like a lot more serious. Because why would he send me to Oxford when we've got a hospital 10 minutes down the road? Anyway, that eventually came through. I had an x-ray, and the first time I heard the word scoliosis was in the same sentence as you need major surgery. And then my number one concern was, is it going to scar? And the doctor was like, yes, it's going to scar. It's surgery. And I was devastated. I was more devastated about the scar than the surgery, which again is really funny now because I love my scar. I said straight away, I'm not having surgery now. I've just started my A-levels. Like, can this wait until after I've done my A-levels when I'm 18, out of school, done? And he said, theoretically, yes, but you're going to need to keep coming back here. I think it was was it every 6 months or every 3 months? I can't remember. I had to go back to hospital like a few times a year for x-rays over the next 2 years. And my surgeon said, if it's getting like loads and loads worse, you are going to need to just have the surgery. But as long as we're monitoring it and it's okay, then we can hold off. Obviously, it did get worse. It like doubled in worseness over the next 2 years. But I think because I was very healthy in myself, he wasn't too bothered about doing surgery like as a matter of urgency. The risks of scoliosis when it's that bad is lung crushing, organ crushing, death. If scoliosis is left untreated, it can kill you in a very slow and I'm sure very painful way because your spine literally just keeps crushing your organs, especially because mine was seemingly progressive. Like in that 2 years, it got doubly worse. That's not a proper sentence, but that's what I'm going with. And so had I not had the surgery, it was just going to keep getting worse. It would eventually started to crush my lungs. I suspect that it already was crushing my lungs a little bit. And it would have eventually killed me. I would have been a hunchback. Like, seriously, I would have had a very bad hunchback. I would have been in immense amounts of pain. And that is why I had to have the surgery. I had the surgery end of January. I think it's like the 22nd of January, 2013. And from there, I am metal. I've had a metal spine. It's a very blurry time for me. It was very traumatic, which I don't think I really like realised at the time. I just completely ignored it. I got diagnosed with scoliosis when I was 16, ignored it for the next 2 years whilst my mum was just like obsessed with it. Because all my mum wanted to do was like research it and take photos of it and like monitor it, and I was just like, I don't want to think about it. I know I've got to have the surgery eventually, but I don't want to think about it. I ignored the fact I was having this surgery until I was at the hospital on the morning of, and then I realised as I was being wheeled down to the anaesthetist room, I was like, oh shit, this is happening. And then I freaked out, tried to get off the bed, tried to run away. Mum told me she would buy me a dog if I had the surgery, so I was like, okay, maybe I'll do it then. Fun fact, 10 years on, my mother has still not bought me a dog. But you know what has happened? Christmas just gone, Christmas 2022, me and my sister bought my mum a dog. Tell me how that works. That doesn't work. I don't know how she managed to make that happen, but I do now have the cutest little puppy sister called Hattie, and she is just an angel. I love her, but still, my mum needs to buy me a dog now. And before I get anyone hating on me in the comments, because there's always some when it comes to animals, I know, we didn't actually buy her the dog for Christmas. We said to her, we want to buy you a puppy. Do you want a puppy? And then she cried, and then 8 weeks later, after lots of discussions, we bought the puppy. And yes, we did buy a puppy. Many reasons, multiple reasons as to why we decided on a puppy, not a rescue dog. I'm not going to go into that now. Shh. She's beautiful though. So that was supposed to be a brief synopsis. I'm sure this video is now 10 minutes long, but that is my very brief scoliosis story. Again, if you want the full in-depth story, you can go and watch the old videos in the playlist. But I did ask on Instagram for any questions people had about my scoliosis or spinal fusion recovery, about what it's like 10 years on, because that was one of the things that I sort of struggled with going into the surgery. There weren't any stories of people who'd had the spinal fusion and... Oh, hello, Rhubarb. Yeah, hello. Speaking of rescue animals, this is my very needy rescue baby, Rhubarb. Anyway, what were we saying, Rhubarb? You interrupted me very rudely. Oh yeah, I was saying one of the things I struggled with going into the surgery was not having any sort of like stories of people who'd had the surgery and what it was like 10 years on, 20 years on, like how it was going to affect me long term. All I knew is I had to have the surgery, because if I didn't have it, I was gonna be crippled, essentially, and that was the long and short of it. So I would rather have the surgery and then deal with the consequences as they come over the years. And yeah, there have been some things I've noticed in the last couple years. Would I change the surgery? Would I have not had the surgery? No, I absolutely still would have had the surgery, because my quality of life overall is much better having had it. There's always going to be things. My spine is held straight with metal. There's going to be things. So I asked on Instagram if you guys had any questions about spinal fusion surgery 10 years on. I do know I have quite a lot of people who do have scoliosis who have found me through my scoliosis videos. And I'm going to try and zoom through as many of these questions as I can, because I think they're all important. Right, so first, my friend Elena asked me, do you still beep at shop security gate things? And this was really funny, because when I first got my surgery, there were a few shops that I would always set off these security alarms. And people will tell you that it shouldn't have done, like titanium shouldn't set off alarms. I'm not joking when I say there were certain shops every time. Topshop on Oxford Street, every time I went there, I beeped. Every single time. I can't tell you why, but I did. Oh my god. They're being so rude next door. Topshop on Oxford Street is now no more, so I can't tell you if I now will beep there. But actually, I don't really beep at all when I go into shops anymore, so I assume maybe they become less sensitive, maybe the text got better, I don't really know. Rhubarb, are you just gonna... Okay. We're just gonna ignore Rhubarb, because if I lock her out of the room, she's like more annoying than if she's here, believe me. She scratches, she screams, she ruins the carpet. We're gonna let it happen. Although I would appreciate if you'd like sit on me rather than there. Along a very similar vein, do I have any problems with airport security, i.e. the machine always beeping? Surprisingly, no, I've never really had a problem with this. I think because the London airports, I assume all airports around the world, or most airports, instead of having like your standard x-ray thing that you step through now, it's like one of those machines where you like walk in and then stand like this and like zooms around you and like scans your entire body. They do show something, I'm pretty sure. I haven't seen it, but I always get like a look from the security people. But I think they do show that I've got something on my spine, but I think they can tell that it's like hardware inside of me rather than like something that I am carrying that I shouldn't be carrying. So they actually never really question me. But also, fun fact, when I do go through like the beepy machine, I beep every time. But I don't think that's my spine. I think it is like jewelry or like a belt loop. There's just always something that beeps, but I don't ever think it's actually my spine, because when they then come and do like the little like wand thing, it's usually a piece of jewelry, which I really should start taking off every time, but I don't know. I just don't. So yeah, no, it's never caused any problems. When I first started traveling after my surgery for the first like 3-4 years, I'd always bring a letter with me from my surgeon just saying basically what it is I've got. Nobody ever asked to see it, and I don't bring it with me anymore. Will I have to get the titanium hardware removed or replaced as it ages? No. Technically, I don't even need the hardware in there anymore. So the way that spinal fusions work, and I assume any sort of fusion anywhere in the body, is the hardware is just there to hold it whilst it heals. So fusions basically work, they're kind of, in a nutshell, I suppose, they scrape away the top few layers of the bone, they then straighten the spine, and then they put the metal in place to hold the spine whilst the bone regrows and fuses, hence spinal fusion. So my spine could now technically, hopefully, hold itself straight, and the hardware's just there. I think it takes about a year for the spine to fully fuse. However, they don't really ever go in and remove it, because what's the point? It's just another major surgery, more trauma for the spine. It is fine in there. If I ever like injured myself, if I ever like snapped one of the rods, which can happen, if one of the screws ever came loose, which again can happen, it's not worth thinking about. It makes me feel a little bit sick. They can go in there and just remove it all, and hopefully my spine would stay in place, I think is the idea. But why would they? I think they wouldn't replace it. If they did anything, they'd just remove it completely, but I don't think I'll ever be in that situation. Fingers crossed. What was the recovery after surgery like? It was rough from what I remember, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I was very drugged up, so I suppose maybe it was bad. It's a very blurry time for me. I was on morphine, then I was on codeine, then I was just on a cocktail of ibuprofen and paracetamol for like 6 months after my surgery. I was very high, like a lot of the time. I remember the hardest part was having to get up and walk around the house, like especially when I got home. My parents set up a bed for me in the lounge downstairs, so during the day I could come down, lie in the bed all day, and then at night they would like escort me upstairs. And I could have just stayed in this bed downstairs all day, all night, but I think my parents wanted me to like have an excuse to like get up and move. So they would make me walk up the stairs every night and every morning, and then like every hour on the hour my mum would come in and like make me walk around the house in a circle. And I found that was so difficult, because it was the last thing I wanted to do. Like, it was so difficult having to like get up and walk, because it's not only the fact that like your spine is now fused straight, it's the fact that your balance is completely off. I grew like 2 inches after surgery. I actually think when I first got measured after my surgery, I went from being just under 5 foot to 5'2". So I grew like 3 inches. And now I'm 5'1", so I assume maybe I shrunk again, or maybe they got it wrong their first time. I don't really know, but I'm definitely 5'1" now. So just that like difference in like height, it throws your entire worldview off. Like, my balance was shot, and I found that really, really hard. So like the recovery was difficult. I sort of like really took it in my stride as being like, this is going to be the only time in my life where I'm going to have an excuse to stay at home and do nothing. Of course, I didn't know then about the global pandemic that would confine us all to our houses about 7 years later, but here we are. So I like very much was like, okay, this is the only time in my life that I'm going to get to be lazy and people are going to do stuff for me. And so I like really tried to enjoy that as much as I could. But it was rough. It was really hard. I remember the first time I went into town with a friend after my surgery. I literally was in town for like half an hour, then had to sit on the floor in Topshop. We talk about Topshop a lot in this video. and then call my mum to come and collect me because I couldn't do it anymore. It was really hard work. I also think my like fitness was just generally shot, which was really hard as well to like get that back. But recovery, generally, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But I suppose that's different for everyone. In hospital, I did have a wild time in hospital. They actually had to like blue light me to a different hospital because they thought I had a blood clot. They thought I had a pulmonary embolism, and they had to take me and have all these tests. Turns out my lungs were just being really lazy, but that took me out of it for like 2-3 days. But generally, it was fine. Or do I just have rose tinted glasses 10 years on? Who knows? Although I suppose I'm talking currently about the short-term recovery as in like the 6-month recovery. In terms of long-term, I found it really rough. Like my muscles are fucked in my back, like still to this day. They're really, really bad. One thing I will say is do your physio, but also make sure your physio knows what the hell they're doing. So I got sent to a physio after my surgery, but it was just like your bog standard physio, and I think she was treating me for scoliosis rather than a spinal fusion, because she kept trying to make me do all these yoga moves that my spine just does not allow. Like my entire spine is fused. I don't think I've said this, you've probably seen it in the photos, but like my entire spine, pretty much, from like T2 to L2 or something like that. I can never remember. Again, my mum paid attention to all this. I just sort of turned up and did what they told me to do. My entire spine is fused. I've got like 14 screws or something ridiculous and 2 long ass metal rods. So my spine does not move. Like this is my spine. This is my hips. This is about how much I can move my spine. That's it. Like my spine does not bend at all. And this physio kept trying to make me do all these yoga moves that I just could not do a year after surgery because my spine does not move. And I feel like she screwed me over a little bit, but it's fine, whatever. What did I struggle with before surgery that I can do now and the other way around? If I'm being completely honest with you, I had no struggles before my surgery at all. Like at all. I didn't hurt. I wasn't sort of disabled in any way. Like I had a wonky spine, but that was about it. I had no symptoms, which is what kind of made it so hard for me to like come to terms with having to have the surgery in my head, because I was fine. If we're really nitpicking, in hindsight, I remember I used to really struggle with my piano lessons. I had piano lessons for years, and by the end of it, I couldn't even sit in the bench anymore because, of course, piano stools have no backs. And I would just be in so much intense pain by the end of my piano lesson, which I actually don't think I ever really complained about at all, because I thought that was just like normal. I thought it was normal if you're sitting in a chair with no back, your back's going to hurt. But even now, after my surgery, that still hurts. I still can't sit in chairs with no backs for like extended periods of time. So that's the same. What has changed? What did I struggle with? Clothes. I really, really, really struggled with clothes before my surgery. Just as I was saying earlier about my prom dress, nothing fitted me. Everything twisted funny. My spine is now like straighter, but it is not straight. Like my spine is probably about at the same level as it was now as when I first got diagnosed. So I think my spine now is like 32 degrees and like 20 something degrees. So it is still very curved. Like if a regular surgeon or regular doctor looked at my spine now without the metal in it, I would still be classed as having like pretty bad scoliosis. So clothes now fit me a little bit better, not great. I find it so difficult to find tops that fit me and dresses that fit me. It's just an absolute nightmare because everything still twists. My waist is still a little bit wonky. It's better than it was, but it is still wonky. So maybe clothes fit me a little bit better now, but generally there's nothing. It's about the same, just now my back hurts more. But I'm not dead, so swings and roundabouts. Do you still get back pain? I had my surgery 12 years ago and still get so much pain. Yes, like I am in constant pain. I mean, it's worse in the winter, I tend to find. I don't know what it is. Something about the weather, the cold, maybe like the dampness just really gets to my back. My back is so painful in the winter. And then it tends to get better from like spring into summer, and then autumn comes around and it starts to hurt again. And it's just like this never ending loop. But yeah, I'm in pain constantly. Like right now, sitting here, my back hurts. It feels uncomfortable. My muscles are really tight. But it's one of those things, it just becomes your new normal, if that makes sense. Like, I don't spend every second of my day thinking about how much my back hurts, but if I like take a moment and take stock of it, then yes, it hurts. But it just becomes normal, doesn't it? Like, I'm sure you know. It just is very normal. It's really bad. It's getting worse, I think, but I'm trying not to dwell on that too much, because I'm just thinking, if it's worse 10 years after surgery, what's going to be like 20 years after surgery? My biggest struggle is like with this muscle here, like into my neck and here. I think this is, so basically for the surgery they had to cut through all my muscles to like reach my spine, and this muscle here just never fully recovered. I've had physio, I've had sports massages, I've had all sorts, nothing really seems to touch it. I am going in for acupuncture though, so I'm very intrigued to see if acupuncture works. It's just tight, like this muscle is just solid, there's no giving it whatsoever. It's still so bad at the bottom of my spine as well, like underneath where the fusion is. I've got like 2 vertebrae that's free, or 1 vertebrae that's free. That really hurts all the time. It's what it is. What are we going to do about it? Probably nothing. We can't do anything, so just pain. Just take drugs. I really find taking ibuprofen, I've literally at all times got like ibuprofen in front of me, and I find that helps, especially this time of year. I find it's been so damp, like April this year. If you're in the UK, you know April, May has been just so wet and horrible that my back's been really suffering because of it. So I'm just on the drugs at all times. Hello, Editing Georgia here. I was just watching this back and realised that I forgot to mention about something that I call my standing energy. I struggle to stand now for long periods of time, which is just a really fun thing in life. Generally, if I'm up and about, if I'm moving, if I'm walking, I am fine. I don't really notice my back starts to hurt that much. But when I stand upright for long periods of time and I'm not moving, I really start to notice that my back is starting to hurt more and more and more. Like if I'm stood in a queue, I have to lean against something, it's really sore. Like if I go to a theme park, I can't stand in queues for long periods of time, it really hurts. Last time I went to Florida, like, must be in 2019 now, I had to actually get myself a disabled pass so I could skip the queues. The way it works, well, I suppose I can explain it. I don't consider myself as disabled. I consider myself to have like a chronic pain condition, but I don't consider myself to be disabled. But I can't stand in queues for long periods of time because it really hurts. It just aches. It's just like, and it's funny because I'm queuing up to go on a roller coaster, and that's fine on my back because I'm sat down and I'm like supported. Standing upright for a long period of time, that hurts so much. The way the sort of like disabled passes work at Disney is like you don't skip the queue, but instead of like having to stand in the queue, you can like sit on a bench outside the ride, or like go and sit in a cafe and then wait until it's like your slot to go on, if that makes sense. And that's something I'm noticing I'm needing like what's the word? Oh, what is the word? Allowances, I suppose. I'm needing those allowances made more and more and more as the years go on, because I just can't stand in queues anymore. If I'm walking, I'm fine. If I'm moving, I'm fine. If I'm stood upright just having to wait, it's bad. Like I went to see Lady Gaga last year, and for whatever crazy reason, I decided to get floor standing tickets. Why did I do that? I don't know. I was so young when I booked the tickets, and then it was like 3 years before I actually went to the bloody show. 2 years. It was a while, and I was in so much pain by the end of it, just standing. Can't do it. I don't know why. That's going to become a problem, like a real problem at some point. It's not quite a big problem right now, but I suspect at some point that's going to become a real problem for me. Anyway, back on with the video. What was the recovery pain and time like after your surgery? So I've already kind of answered in terms of the recovery pain. Time, I'd say it was 6 months before I could like go back and start to do normal things. I went back to work after like, I think it must have been 6 months, and just like did very, very minimal stuff. Then I built up from there. I think a big thing wasn't so much the like operation recovery, it was my fitness. My fitness was just absolutely shot. I couldn't do anything without getting out of breath, and that really took quite a while to like work its way back. So again, if you are having the surgery, I would say try and keep your fitness up as much as you can. Like when it's safe to do so, walk up and down the stairs, walk around the house, go for like short walks around your neighbourhood with somebody to like hold your hand and hold you upright, obviously. But just try and keep your fitness up, because that really was the thing that I think, again, in hindsight, that I really struggled with. I do think it was probably about a year until I was like back to normal. For like a whole year, I got away with doing like no chores around the house, didn't have to do any hoovering, didn't have to clean my room, like didn't have to do any of my like usual chores, didn't have to do the dishwasher for like a year. And then it was around the year mark, my parents were like, no, you can do this again now. And I was like, okay, I guess we're back to normal then. So I would say about a year. Do I regret getting practically my entire spine fused? I do not regret it, because if I hadn't done it, I don't think I'd be dead right now, but I'd be living a very poor quality of life, maybe working my way towards death's doors, because my spine was progressive, like I said, so it would just seem to be getting worse and worse and worse. So no, I don't regret it. Yeah, I've got some pain now. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, there's many things I can't do, but still my overall quality of life is much better than if I hadn't had it. And there was no point just getting like the top curve fused or the bottom curve fused. Like there was no point just doing one of them. They were both going to keep getting worse. I just did the whole thing. No regrets. No regrets. What are some unexpected things you discovered over the years? How much you use your spine. And this feels like it should be obvious, but like I never realised pre-surgery, or when you don't think about it, you don't realise how much your spine does for you. Like trampolining, I can't go on trampolines. It is so painful to me. Like I think because I have just got those like couple of free vertebrae at the bottom of my spine, every time I bounce on a trampoline, I can just feel those vertebrae being like compressed, condensed, compressed. That's the right word, isn't it? Can't go on trampolines. Just a little thing. Can't do it. And I think like when I have my own kids, I'm not going to be able to like go on a trampoline with them because it hurts too much. Just like twisting. So I obviously, because my spine is straight, I cannot move my spine. So if I'm in a car, for example, and I'm like trying to pull out onto a road, I can't just like twist. Like I can twist my neck, but you can't see far enough. But I can't like twist my spine to like see behind me. So when I'm driving, I've got to like shift my entire body to the side to like look before I can like pull out on a road. And it's just like one of those things that every time I have to do it, I'm like, oh, okay, let's like twist my entire body. And it's just like harder work. What other things? I'm sure there's loads. It's just one of those things where I have to think about my spine all the time. And I was having this conversation with my girlfriend the other day, in that I think a lot of people think I use my spine as an excuse as to why I can't do things. Like, I'm not very much of an adrenaline junkie anyway, but like generally I can't do sort of like really adrenaline junkie things because I've got to think about my spine. And like in the moment, like go-karting, for example, like somebody, I can't remember, my friends, my siblings, somebody was trying to organise like a go-karting thing, and like we could all go go-karting together and it's going to be really fun. But I had to like stop and think, like, I can't go-kart because if I like crash into something and it jolts my back, that could be me out of action for like 2-3 weeks. I don't know if I'd recover from that. I don't know, like in the long term, what kind of repercussions that would have on my spine. And I can't really think about my back in terms of like the day-to-day. Like, I could do something today and I'd be fine, but like in 5 years' time, if I keep like ragging my back and I keep causing myself back pain, am I going to be able to walk in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years? And like, this is a lifelong thing for me. So I can't just think in the present. I've got to think, I've got to preserve my back, I've got to preserve my sort of health and safety for me to still be okay when I'm like 70, 80 years old. And I feel like that's not something I thought about 10 years ago when I first got my spine done. But now, like 10 years on, I'm coming up to 30. The aches and pains, they're just there constantly. And not just in my spine, like my entire body just aches and pains so bad. Like bumper cars. I can't go on bumper cars. I go to the fair. I can't do bumper cars because I can't jolt my back. I've got to be so careful all the time of like jolting my back. If I were to like be in a car crash, like a serious car crash, I could barely hurt myself, also like really, really seriously hurt myself at the same time, if that makes sense. Something I've noticed in the past like 18 months is pins and needles. I get really, really bad pins and needles, specifically in my right thigh. I've had a numb patch on my leg ever since I had the surgery 10 years ago. I was warned going into it that it might cause numbness. I've had a completely numb patch on my leg for the last year or last 10 years. I've got a big like section of my back, like middle of my back, like this much, completely numb, can't feel a thing. That's been there since my surgery. Past 18 months, I've noticed I get pins and needles that sort of like shoot up and down this thigh. I should probably go to the doctors about it, but I know it's back related. I know it's just one of the side effects of having a metal spine. Nerves, things happen to the nerves when you have metal spine, and I think it's just something that I'm going to have to learn to live with, because there's not really anything anyone can do for pins and needles. And it's not got like worse over the last year and a half, I'd say, but I've just noticed it's there. Like, I've got to lay in specific positions in bed, because otherwise the pins and needles drive me mental. When I'm walking around, it's fine. It's just when I like sit down or lie down, like obviously I'm trapping a nerve somewhere. And that is driving me mental. Maybe I should go to the doctors. Maybe I should. I just feel like a bit of a what's the words? Hypochondriac sometimes. But maybe I should go for that. Also, something I really don't think I noticed until I got in a long-term relationship, this is going to sound really funny, but just generally, my nerves are just fucked. Like, my skin, I can't feel anything. And I have no idea if I was like this pre-surgery, because I was like 17, 18. I don't like physical touch. I don't really like people touching me generally, but obviously my girlfriend, she does touch me. Like, we hug, she'll like touch my skin. And I can't feel anything. Like, at all. I've got the highest pain tolerance ever. Like, she can like be like, you're in a relationship, you like pick each other's spots, and I like people like getting my blackheads for me. Is that gross? I feel like that's quite normal. But like, she'll be like squeezing my skin, and she'll be like, I'm sorry, and I'm like, I cannot feel that at all. Like, I can't feel it in the slightest. And I don't know if I was like that pre-surgery, but I'm going to assume that I wasn't, and it was my surgery that has fucked with all my nerves. But it's funny, like, I can feel things like underneath my skin. So if somebody's like really poking me, I can feel it like in the muscle. But if somebody's just like touching my skin or like pinching my skin, I don't have much feeling, like, at all. Which I just thought was normal, but apparently it's not. And that's only something I've realised since being in a long-term relationship, and I've actually let somebody touch me. I'm just not a hugger. I just don't like people touching me. I don't like it. Never have, never will. But my girlfriend, got to make exceptions somewhere. She's very physical touch kind of person. So, you compromise in a relationship, and that's where we compromise. I feel like I went off on such a tangent there, but that was probably quite an important tidbit to share about my recovery. Pins and needles getting worse, numbness getting worse. Am I going to reach the point one day where just my entire body is numb? Maybe. It could be. If you could, would you do it again, or would you try sticking to back braces? So I got diagnosed past a point where a back brace was going to be of any use to me. Like, a back brace wasn't going to make my scoliosis better. So doctors usually put scoliosis patients in back braces to prevent it from getting worse. So if you've got like a slight curve and they think it's going to get worse, they'll put you into a back brace, not to make the curve less, but just to stop its progression. I was diagnosed at a point where my curve was so bad, the brace wasn't really going to do anything. However, I always say I'm really, really, really grateful that I got diagnosed at a point where I didn't need a back brace, because I was an awkward teenager. I'm an awkward adult. Like, I still find socialising and just like talking to people, general conversation, small talk, stuff like that, I find it really, really, and my voice just cracked, I find it really, really, really difficult. And making friends for me was rough in school, and if I had had a back brace in school, I could not have gone through life. I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have like had friends. I couldn't have socialised. I was so shy. I was so like withdrawn and introverted. Still am. So the thought of like little teenage me having to be in a back brace every day, it just breaks my heart. I'm so, so, so grateful that I never had to go through that. And I'm grateful that I did have to have the surgery. Like, I would have chosen the surgery any day over the back brace. So I would do the surgery again any day over the back brace. If back braces work for you, I know there's so many people they work for, and like now, like 12 years on, they are so much more discreet than they were 12 years ago when I would have needed one. Like, they were quite bulky, quite obvious. I've seen some now which are like almost invisible. Is amazing. But yeah, back brace, not for me. Are you able to ride still? What if you fell off? For those of you who don't know, I am a horse girl. My entire family are horsey. My mum used to ride for England. None of us had any chance. Like, we were going to be horsey. We had no choice in the matter. I have never been a very good horse rider. I feel like when you tell people you have horses, they immediately get like pictures of you like jumping around the Olympics, like 160 fucking show jumping. Not me. I've never been a good horse rider. I've never been a confident horse rider. Again, I just never really had much confidence. And that sort of comes to horse riding as well. My sisters are the amazing, and my brother, to be fair, all amazing show jumpers. Not me. I just like pets. I like to have a pony as a pet to plod around, and yes, because that is what I want to do with my riding career. I am able to ride still. I was told when I got diagnosed I'd never be able to ride again, which was rough, but I kind of just ignored that. I don't think if I was a competitive rider, like I was a show jumper like my siblings, or an eventer, or like jumping or riding on a serious level, that I would have been able to continue to that level. I think the level of risk is just too high. Like, if I fall off a horse, I could seriously injure myself. I could paralyse myself. But I think because I am just a happy hacker, like I like to ride my horse into the woods and plod around and then plod back, I am very safe to do so. But it also is very much to do with the horse you ride. I will only ride super, super, super safe horses that I trust. My pony Mojo, he is a little tiny 13.2, so he's like this big. Whenever people like see him in person, they're like, he's much smaller than I thought. And I'm like, no, he's tiny. He's tiny, he's like an armchair. He comes from a riding school, so he literally taught kids to ride for many years. I first went to view him. He came from a riding school in West London, I think Ealing, maybe not. Ealing, must have been. He came from a riding school, and next door to the riding school was a shooting range. So there's all these guns going off, and he doesn't even like bat an eyelid. And I was like, you're coming home with me. So Mojo came home with me. I literally sat on him in the school. I was kicking him. I couldn't get him to move. He just stood, he planted his legs, and I was like, he is my perfect horse. So my Mojo is the safest pony in the entire world. Like, still now kids learn to ride on him, and I trust him with my life. So I ride, but I pretty much only ride my pony who I trust, who I know I can read him like the back of my hand. So if he's going to do something stupid, I know he's about to do something stupid and I can prepare myself for it. I ride in a body protector. I'm super careful. I don't do anything crazy. I wouldn't necessarily ride any other horse at this point. So yes, I do still ride. If I fell off, then bad things could happen. I've had Mojo nearly 3 years now, and I've never fallen off. He has spooked once in 3 years I've had him, and I stayed on. So that's Mojo. Any advice, Ari, surgery recovery? The number one thing I would say is get yourself a V-pillow. I had a V-pillow after my surgery, and it was honestly a lifesaver for me. It's just a pillow in the shape of a V that you can like prop up behind you, so like you can like sit comfortably, or like if you are like wanting to like lean forward, you can prop it up in front of you, you can prop it up to the side and just get yourself into a comfortable position. That V-pillow, honestly, I don't know what I would have done without it. It was incredible. Also, take drugs. Like, don't try and be a martyr. Don't be like, I don't need drugs. Take the drugs. They're offering you drugs. Take them. And I'm not talking hard drugs. Like, I'm talking like just like ibuprofen and paracetamol every other hour. Like, just keep yourself drugged up because it hurts. You are going to be in pain. You need that pain to be managed, and then you can slowly wean yourself off eventually when you don't need them anymore. Just keep yourself drugged up. Don't be a martyr. Honestly, don't. Not worth it. Just do it. And also, if you're drugged up and you're feeling in less pain, you're more likely to get up and walk around and like do the exercises you need to do. If you're in pain lying in bed because you refuse to take the drugs that you need to take, you're just prolonging your recovery. Take the drugs. What else? Get yourself a shower stall. I had a shower stall because I couldn't bath for so long. I was so upset about it. But yeah, the shower stall was great because actually it meant I was able to wash. What else? I don't know if there's anything else. Can I still do yoga but adjusted for my back? And yes, I can do yoga but very much adjusted for my back. About 5 years ago, I was literally doing like 4 or 5 yoga classes every single week. I don't know how I found the time to do that, but I did apparently. Like every time I got a new yoga teacher, I would go to them and be like, this is the deal. I can't really move my spine. I've got no twist in my spine. So if you see me and you want to come and adjust me, just trust that I am trying my absolute hardest. And there are still certain teachers that would come over and like try and like, they'll like grab you and try and like twist you so you're in the right position. And I'll be like, my body doesn't move in that way. Like that is impossible for me. So I can still do yoga. I haven't done it in a long time now. I do want to get back into it, but the place where I had the yoga classes closed down and it was so cheap and everywhere else is so expensive. So I haven't done it in a while, but I do want to get back into it. It actually did help with my back pain for quite a while. Like it really helped. So I do need to get back into it. But yeah, I've just thought of something else for the surgery recovery question, and that is bio-oil. I know they say there's no scientific evidence that bio-oil actually works to reduce scarring, but I think I am the scientific evidence because my scar is almost invisible. So my scar runs from the top of my spine here all the way down to the bottom here. Can you see that? It runs all that way. You can't see it. I've got like a little indentation at the bottom, which you can see. If you're not looking for my scar, especially like in the winter when I'm not tanned, you cannot see it. Partly credit goes to my surgeon, Dr. Nardi at John Radcliffe, for just being incredible. Because I think I was so traumatised at the idea of having a scar that he like really worked hard to make it like, it's pristine, it's so good. But also bio-oil, honestly, is incredible, incredible stuff. That's all the questions I got, but there's just one more thing I want to show in this video before I sign off, and that is how much my spine moves, because I get that question all the time and I'm surprised I didn't get it here. So I'm gonna undress for you guys. I'm gonna show you how my spine moves. Right, okay, so my spine is fused from here all the way down to here. Can't move it. This is how I can move my body. So I can move side to side if I push my hips out. So I actually can't move side to side with my spine. Like, again, I'm just moving my hips out. But that's how I sort of like move. So if I need to like reach for something from the side, I just kind of like do that. You adjust, your body adjusts over the years. Like you find new ways to do things, new ways to move. In terms of like leaning forward, I can... no, I can't anymore. I was about to say I can touch my toes. Actually, embarrassingly, I can't anymore. But once I get back into yoga, I will. When I'm fit, I can touch my toes. But like, I just move from my pelvis. My pelvis does a lot of the work for me. Maybe one day that's going to like cause some issues. But currently right now, it's doing all the hard work. Yeah, side to side. Front. Back, I can't move at all. Like, I cannot bend backwards at all. This is me really trying. I just can't. In terms of twisting, like I said, I can't twist my spine. Like I can sort of do that, and that is so uncomfortable. It's like really, really tight. I am aware, by the way, of my spine being metal at all times of the day, every single day. Like you can feel it. It's not like at the front of your mind all the time. But like, especially now when I'm talking about it, I can feel the fact that my spine is fused straight. Like it's there. It's an uncomfortable feeling. But it's like you just, again, it just becomes your new normal. You forget about it after a while. Oh, ignore these plasters, by the way. Can you see them? I'm getting a patch test. Getting my eyebrows laminated. Anyway, yeah, twisting. So I can like twist from my legs, from my knees, from my pelvis, from this area, but I can't like twist my spine. If I want to twist, I just have to like move my entire body. Is that all the ways your spine moves? I guess so. I can like hunch. I can't hunch. I can move my shoulders forward. Like I can't hunch. Like, so I've got a very good posture. So, you know, there's that. I always get told I'd make a very good dressage rider because my posture is like perfect at all times. Anyway, I think that's it. I think I'm going to sign off there because this was meant to be like a quick 20-minute video, but I've been talking for like about an hour and a half. So I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope it's been very helpful. If any of you have a spinal fusion surgery coming up, or if you've got scoliosis and you just want some questions, have some questions that you want answers to, you can leave a comment in the description box. No, can you tell I've been talking for an hour and a half? You can leave a comment in the comments down below and I'll get back to you, or you can message me on Instagram. All my like social media will be down below in the description box. I don't always look at my requests on Instagram because sometimes you go through phases when people are just like really mean and then I stop looking for like a month. Another neighbour's just started mowing their lawn as well. Can you hear that? That's ridiculous. That is a sign to log off, I think. If you do DM me on Instagram and you want an answer, just leave a comment on one of my pictures and I'm more likely to see that, and then I'll just like go and search it out. Anyway, I'm going to sign off because that's really annoying. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.